No, there will be people who agree with you, but if it had been done once, that was enough. But I don't think it needed to do it the second time.
GB News, the People's Channel.
There's plenty more still to come on Free Speech Nation this week, including an interview with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member Dion, and more questions from our rather lovely viewers. But let's get a news update first from Sam Francis.
Andrew, thank you, and good evening to you. It's just after 8 o'clock. The top story from the newsroom, and we'll bring you a bit of breaking sports news. I'm sure you've heard already it has been a tense night in the stadium in Gelsenkirchen. England were on their way home, but now they're heading into the Euro 2024 finals. As soon as the final whistle went, the fan zone in Wembley erupted with cheers. Well, Gareth Southgate's side had suffered a major scare against Slovakia, down 1-0 in the first 90 minutes. But Jude Bellingham scored an equaliser in stoppage time, and then 50 seconds into extra time, Harry Kane headed home a goal, taking England to a 2-1 win. England will now play Switzerland in the quarter-finals in Dusseldorf on Saturday. Congratulations to Gareth Southgate's side. Well, in a blow to Reform UK's campaign, a candidate has defected to the Conservatives, saying he's become increasingly disillusioned with the behaviour and conduct of the party. Liam Booth Isherwood says he's suspending his campaign and will instead support a Conservative candidate, Maggie Throop, to, he says, stop Labour. The party has already withdrawn support for 3 candidates who were accused of making offensive comments, and one activist who was recorded making a racial slur about the Prime Minister. At an event in Birmingham earlier, Nigel Farage claimed the campaigner was planted by Channel 4 News as part of a smear campaign, though the broadcaster has denied those claims.
This guy is a setup. He was acting from the minute he walked into that office. He came up with a stream of invective not seen since Alf Garnett was on the television in the early 1970s. And some of it was just, turning mosques into Wetherspoons. It wasn't even serious. It was nonsense. So I really feel that Channel 4 or the production company need to be called before an inquiry. Let's find out the truth about what happened.
In other news, the Prime Minister insists that an election victory for the Tories is still possible, despite polls predicting a heavy defeat. Rishi Sunak warned today that Labour's tax plans would bankrupt people in every generation, and also criticised Labour's plans to make private schools pay VAT, saying that taxing education is wrong. Labour, though, says its first steps, if it wins the election, would be restoring economic stability and cutting NHS waiting lists. The party continues to lead the Tories in the polls by around 20 points ahead of Thursday's election. And in France, voters have given the far-right National Rally a strong lead in the first round of parliamentary elections today. Exit polls tonight show Marine Le Pen's party won, with President Macron's centrist group trailing in third place with up to 23%. That's after his decision to call a snap vote earlier this month. Turnout was also unusually high compared with previous elections, the largest in 40 years. Though experts say the projections after the first round could be highly inaccurate, and now a week of political bargaining lies ahead before the final results. In the US, President Biden's approval rating remains unchanged following a widely criticised debate performance. A poll found the president retains a 1-point advantage over Donald Trump. That's the same margin recorded the day after Trump was convicted of criminal charges. However, 60% of those surveyed said that the president should be replaced before November's election, but no alternative candidates performed better in the poll. In Tenerife, police have now called off their search for the missing British teenager Jay Slater. He was from Lancashire and was last seen in mountainous areas of the island. According to reports, that operation to find him has now finished, although the case does remain open, and it comes just 2 days after a big push by search teams and volunteers to help find the 19-year-old. Here, a woman has been charged with misconduct in public office. That's after a video allegedly showed a prison officer having sex with an inmate. 30-year-old Linda de Souza Abreu from Fulham was arrested by the Met Police on the 28th of June. That's after a video was filmed inside Wandsworth Jail in London and posted on social media. She's set to appear in custody at Uxbridge Magistrates Court tomorrow. And finally, Inside Out 2 has crossed a major box office milestone, taking more than $1 billion during its global release. In just its third weekend in cinemas, it's notched up ticket sales in record time for an animated film. The sequel to the 2015 original introduces audiences to a whole new cast of emotions inside a teenager's head, with joy, sadness and anger, not quite sure how to react to the arrival of anxiety, envy and embarrassment. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sam Francis. More in the next hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Andrew Doyle. So, time for some more questions from my studio audience. Our next question comes from Bev. Bev, hello.
Good evening. I just wondered what you thought about political party candidates being reported or threatened with arrest when delivering party political leaflets.
OK, so, Paul, you've seen this story, haven't you? This was the candidate in Leeds, Louise MacDonald, threatened with arrest. She's for the Party of Women. Threatened with arrest for distributing leaflets. Did you read about this one?
Yes, I did. I did read about this one. I've even read the leaflet. Leaflet says lots of sensible things. And my understanding also is that these leaflets were distributed by the Royal Mail. I've had leaflets distributed by the Royal Mail myself before, and they have to sort of pass a fit and proper test in order to do so. So they are fine.
Well, I mean, even
for
if that weren't the case,
consumption.
I mean, I've read the leaflet. It's gender critical views. It's the belief that there are two sexes and they cannot change. Beliefs that are protected under the Equality Act. I mean, Cressida, I don't understand why the police would get involved with the expression of perfectly legitimate viewpoints, and particularly when it's a parliamentary candidate. That's worrying, isn't it?
It's extremely worrying, and you just hope that this is going to be resolved relatively quickly and that it will be a mistake, but it's...
Or like an overzealous officer or something.
Yes, exactly.
But doesn't that point
it shows us...
Yes, go on,
that
sorry.
there's a culture in the police, that there's some activism, and it's clearly not following... It's not following the procedures, it's not following the law, it's just totally inappropriate.
I mean, that's a bigger issue, isn't there? I mean, I think because the College of Policing have been so sort of active in basically training the police to believe that they should be activists, right. You know, which is why you end up with them all in the rainbow lanyards and all the rest of it.
Which is exactly what you don't want, without fear or favour.
Right.
And this is clearly with favour,
yeah.
or with unfavourability towards one candidate.
But like you say, hopefully it'll be resolved, right?
It should be resolved. I mean, it shouldn't. Well, it's not an issue to be resolved, is it? It's a non-issue. Now, it's a non-issue in the sense of they have absolutely no right to do what they've done whatsoever.
Yes.
It is an issue for the party. It is an issue for that candidate, and it puts them on the back foot. You know, it makes that. It's only going to empower them more, though.
Do you think?
Oh, absolutely. It can't. How can it do anything else? Because it's drawing attention to this. And if anybody right-thinking reads that leaflet and is in favour of free speech and or biology, then we are going to...
Well, this is it. I mean, you know, the Party of Women was set up because a lot of women are sick and tired of this stuff. Does this not kind of thing just prove their point?
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And I believe that the person... I listened to Kelly J. Keane speaking to the police officer about this, and it was a male police officer, and you think, to quote Kemi Badenoch, you know, the optics not looking good, are they? It's not ideal.
Well, because of election regulations, I should also say that the candidates for the Sheffield Heeley constituency are Liberal Democrat is Rebecca Atkinson Green, Alexi Diamond, Labour, Louise Haigh, Social Democratic Party, Helen Jackman, Conservative, Lorna McGuinness, and Party of Women, Louise MacDonald. Oh, and the Workers' Party of Britain, Stephen Roy. And Mark Souter, who's the trade unionist and Socialist Coalition. There's a lot. There's a lot to choose from there. Anyway, let's get some more questions from our viewers. So our first question came in from Jonathan. Where's Jonathan? Oh, you're here. Hello.
Good evening. Should statues of Virginia Woolf really be singled out for special attention having a QR code.
Yes, so this is that statue in Tavistock Square, statue of Virginia Woolf. Now, if people don't know, they put a QR code so you can scan it, and basically this will tell you what an evil racist she was, yeah? That's the gist, isn't it? So what do you think, Jonathan? Is that necessary?
Well, I think I would recover quite quickly from finding out about these things. You know, I'm jolly well fed up with being infantilized by everything.
Yes.
And if it were a QR code, say for one going on a tour around London statues and, you know, general information,
yeah,
why not?
Oh, sure.
But to pick someone out, evil person...
Yes.
I mean,
I mean, effectively, you know, if the QR code was sort of told you a bit about To the Lighthouse or Mrs. Dalloway, or say, you know, these are the books that she wrote, she was part of the Bloomsbury Group, all of that kind of, great. But if it's just to say, shock horror, someone born in 1882 didn't have the same values as 21st century intersectionalists, then I'm not sure that's
you know
worthwhile.
What? I've got to eat my words, because the number of times we've done stories about pulling down statues and so on, and I've said, just put a plaque on it.
Yeah.
And that's what they've done.
Yeah.
They've taken my advice, and I'm still not happy.
Yeah, but look, is it possible? I mean, surely it's grossly unfair to judge someone who was born in the late 19th century by the standards of today. It doesn't make any sense, does it?
Well, no, I don't. Look, Andrew, come on, you know the rules. 2024 is right, and it was always right, and it will always be right.
Right.
Those are the rules.
Well, that's lucky for the activists of today, isn't it, Paul? That they will never be judged by future generations.
Well, let me tell you something. In 100 years' time, there will be statues of David Tennant, and I will need a QR code
yes,
telling you how wrong he was, and then next to it will be a massive one of Kelly Jane Keane, and it'll be saying how right she was.
Right, well, so we shall see. OK. Oh, you know your audience. OK, let's move on. Oh, by the way, right, OK, we're going to move on. We've got another question now. So who is the other question from? Do we have another question? What's your name, sir?
Chris.
Chris, what's your question?
Are asexuals the most important group on a Pride march?
OK, yeah, I saw this tweet as well. So there's an asexual activist called Yasmin Benoit? I don't know how to pronounce it. Apologies, Yasmin. There she is, and she's saying she's the first asexual person to lead the Pride March in London. And she says, asexual people are part of Pride, it's time to make history. Now, I've got nothing against her personally, I'm sure she's a lovely woman. But the thing is, Cressida, Pride was about protest and it was about a history of oppression. The oppression of gay people through the centuries. Gay people have been burnt at the stake, denied basic human rights. That's never happened to someone who just doesn't fancy having sex.
I shouldn't think so. I think they would have gone largely unnoticed.
Yes.
Perhaps that was painful. I don't know.
Maybe that's the problem. You know, because that's, you know, there's a photo that accompanies the tweet and she's looking, well, she's pouting in a very sexualised way, which is mixed messaging.
I didn't want to say, I thought that's victim blaming. That was exactly what I thought. I thought, what an unfortunate pose for somebody who doesn't want any sexual attention.
Well, there's that. But I mean, for me, it is a question of, you know, you're just not oppressed. No one cares what you don't get up to in the bedroom. Like, they just don't care.
Or what you do get up to. And having met everybody who's uninterested in sex, yeah. I can tell you... I can tell you that some of them are really boring.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show, doesn't it? Pride is not what it used to be. You know, Pride used to be about gay rights. Now you have lesbians being escorted off by police at Cardiff Pride because they had a sign saying lesbians don't like penises.
Yeah, I know.
Well, guess what? They don't because they're gay. and like, it's absolutely insane that the Pride is just... I mean, effectively, Pride is now mostly heterosexuals with a kink, isn't it? People who want to be oppressed. They want a piece of that oppression pie.
I have done 3 gigs this weekend, all of which have been with a gay man. And that's not a brag. And each of those gay men have said to me they're not attending London Pride this weekend because they have absolutely no interest in it anymore. They don't understand what it stands for, particularly in London. They'll travel the world and they'll go to other prides if they're about, because it's still, across the globe, it will still indulge in the reasons that it was there in the first place. But particularly in the West, particularly in the States and here, gay people are just shying away from it now.
Possibly it's even at the point where it's doing damage. We've been looking recently at statistics in the US where people are less likely to support same-sex marriage now than they were in the past.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It does have that effect. Very, very, actually, dodgy stuff, I think. Anyway, next up on Free Speech Nation, music legend Dion is still going strong at the age of 84. He's going to join us to discuss his latest album, Girlfriends, in which he teams up with 12 female collaborators. Don't go anywhere.
This election night, we're putting on a party. And you are invited,
We'll be here with you.
following all the twists and turns.
As well as all the live reaction from our election night watch party.
With our GB News lineup.
And as morning breaks, we'll be here with breakfast from 6 a.m.
As it becomes clear who the winners and the losers really are.
Vote 2024.
Thursday, the 4th of July.
Only on GB News, Britain's election channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
We've been talking about the White House is concerned with playing down concerns about the health of President Biden, who's apparently taken to freezing during public events. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni was seen herding the president back into a photo with world leaders after he shuffled aimlessly away from the group. In the last few days, videos and images of the president freezing at a fundraising event went viral, but the White House stated that they were deceptively edited cheap fakes. With me now, again, is my panel, the historian broadcaster Tessa Dunlop and the associate comment editor of The Telegraph, Mujaz Ahmed. Mujaz, I mean, you are a journalist. What about this idea that in some way the images could be fake?
They could be fake, and some of them will be fake. But the reason these AI images or AI videos or weirdly edited videos are a problem for the White House is that people have seen enough of Biden freezing in real life.
It's not going away, this one. It's perception versus reality, but as Mustafa said, it doesn't matter because it's now become Biden's reality, which is bushfighting, these questions about his ability connected to his age. I don't understand where you go from here. He's got a vice president who isn't presidential material, who I think polls worse than he does, despite these, you would call them ageist. In many ways, it's about his competence, isn't it?
It can make a big difference when the president whose competence, mental competence, is under question, is running on the matter of competence itself. They're trying to paint Trump as being incompetent, as being not presidential, as being unable to lead, while they have a candidate who struggles to get off the stage. Yeah. That's the issue for them. And it's not really about age. He's not much older than Trump, as you say. It's about the appearance of age.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Andrew Doyle. Now, if you're a fan of rock and roll music from the 1960s, you might well recognise this. That was Run Around Sue by Dion, a true music legend who was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 35 years ago. He's still going strong. He's just released a new album called Girlfriends, in which he collaborates with 12 female artists. Let's have a quick listen to An American Hero with Carlene Carter.
We saw the lights go down across the land. We were waiting for someone to take the stand.
And there was no one near to hear the call. No one listening to us at all.
Hey, now, you know we need an American hero right now. We're searching for an American hero who will stand up tall for everyone.
And Dion joins me now to tell me all about it. Good evening, Dion. Congratulations on the album.
Yo, how you doing, Andrew?
Really well, thank you so much. I have to say, you've assembled an impressive range of collaborators there. Can I ask, how do you choose who you want to sing with? And does that affect the way that you write the songs? Are you thinking of specific voices?
Well, you know, back when the shutdown happened during COVID, what happened was I had written about 14 songs. I went in and recorded these songs, and my friend Joe Bonamassa played on one of them, and I thought, man, this is the deal right here. I should do this all the time with great artists. I could get well, he sounded so good that I called up Jeff. I called up Jeff Beck. He played on one thing, and Eric Clapton played on another, and Peter Frampton and Mark Knopfler. And it was so much fun. The thing was so much fun to do, you know, having these artists like infuse what they were thinking, not what I was thinking, but just I had the track, I would give it, they would come into the studio, knock it out, and it was just amazing. So, and I had a few girls on the first album, like Samantha Fish, and it was so much. Listen, when there's a girl that walks into the room with a guitar, the whole atmosphere changes. I kid you not, man. It just changes. It's the feminine genius. So much fun doing this. I thought, I'm going to do an album with a bunch of girls. I'm going to get, you know, all the girls I know in the blues genre. So I called Susan Tedeschi and Shamika Copeland, and I don't know, there was a bunch of them, you know, like Debbie Davies, and just the whole, you know, and I had these songs, and it was just a lot of fun, man. I tell you, Andrew, I'm in my 80s. If you would have told me that I'd be writing the best songs of my life in my 80s, I would have told you were crazy. But I'm under the spout where the glory comes out, man. It's under the wealth of creativity.
That is fascinating, because you've been so prolific in recent years. You know, you've done 3 albums in the past 4 years. You mentioned your Blues with Friends album with people like Van Morrison and Bruce Springsteen. And so how do you keep that creative spirit going for such a long time? Do you have to continually reinvent what you're doing?
Well, I don't know if I'm reinventing anything. You know, I have friends, they go, oh, you recreated yourself. I go, wait a minute. I never created myself in the first place, so I'm not going to recreate myself. It's just a matter of, I think I'm evolving and maturing and just getting better. You know, I have a gift, and if you have a gift, there's a gift giver, and I just follow it. I stay open, and these songs kind of, more than the songs coming from me, I seem to download them from above, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, your career, of course, goes back to the late 1950s with Dion and the Belmonts, and you were kids of the Bronx. You were developing that doo-wop sound. Can I ask, how did you get from the streets of the Bronx onto, you know, the American Bandstand? How does that breakthrough even happen?
You know, that's a good question. You got me. You know, like I never planned anything. I really didn't. When I was a kid, my parents were arguing a lot in the house. You know, my father never had a real job. So one day I caught Hank Williams, and then I caught Jimmy Reed, this old blues singer, on a radio, you know, on a show that, you know, I used to get under the blankets with my transistor in the 50s, and, you know, and key in on Wheeling, West Virginia, and the station. And I heard this stuff, and it changed my life. I talked to Eric Clapton about it. We were on the same page because, you know, these people were like my musical awakening, you know. And I just followed it. I started singing, you know. I was trying to tell my friends on the corner in the Bronx, I said, I heard a guy sing, I heard a guy rhyme was with buzz. He said, baby, you give me a buzz. I didn't think I could last much longer, but I didn't know how wrong I was. I thought I went nuts when I heard that. I had to get a guitar to show them what I was experiencing, because these songs when I was 11 years old, 12 years old, they kind of catapulted me into a place of enchantment or delight or transcendent. You know, it just transcended all the arguing that was going on in the house. And then there was a guy who brought me down to this record company in Manhattan because I lived in the Bronx. I was fortunate because they just opened up this record company, and I sang them a few songs and they went crazy. They said, "Where did you come from?" You know? And this is when I was about 17. And off I went, you know.
And you were so young, you know, starting out in this huge industry at such a young age. I mean, that must have been incredibly disorientating. And I presume you didn't think you would still be at it 6 decades later.
I didn't, but Andrew, if I had to get into this business right now, I wouldn't know how.
Yeah.
It was simple then. I just had a guitar. I walked into a room and I sang a few songs and off we went. But it's been very good to me. It's all, you know, look, Andrew, here I am talking to you after all these years. It opened up my whole world, my whole life. Oh, it's like music it's a universal communications tool. You know, it's a way of life.
Yes. And I'm really interested in your influences. I know you were very influenced by Hank Williams in those early years. And you were very close with Buddy Holly, who I think had a huge influence on rock and roll and pop music generally. And of course, he tragically died in the plane crash in 1959, along with Ritchie Valens and J.P. Richardson, the Big Bopper. And my understanding is you were scheduled to be on that flight, or at least you were on the tour, weren't you?
I was on the tour, and I was in the room when we... you know, Buddy, it's a long story, but it's on YouTube, the true Buddy Holly story. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame came down to my house and just taped my, you know, they wanted to know because nothing made sense. They said, tell us what you know.
Yeah, but did Buddy Holly have a particular influence, though, in terms of where you went as a musician after that horrible incident?
Well, you know, Buddy was a very mature. I was 19. He was 22. He was learning how to fly out of Teterboro Airport in New Jersey. I was like 19. I was learning how to hail a cab. I didn't know anything. But this guy was very, very decisive and statuesque. And he was a beautiful guy, really, really a good guy, and talented as all out. And a big influence on me. He told me, he said, "Dion, I don't know how to succeed. I don't know how to, you know, what's success, but I know how to fail, try to please everybody." I think if he didn't tell me that, I don't think I ever would have recorded The Wanderer or Run Around Sue or Abraham, Martin, and John.
So it did change your direction. I mean, that's a very interesting idea of just doing what your muse tells you, doing what you feel you ought to do. Run Around Sue, can I ask you about that? Because, of course, you also co-wrote that. It wasn't just that you were singing someone else's song. You very much became an active songwriter. Is that something that has always particularly driven you?
You know, I never thought of myself as a songwriter, never. But it just crept up on me. It kind of took me over, you know. I started just coming up. These things start coming out of you, and you want to get closer to the center. And if you try that, you start writing songs.
Yes. So do songs for you, are they a form of you sort of dealing with what's going on in your life? Do you see them as a kind of, that they have that kind of therapeutic quality, or is it a bit more complicated than that?
Well, a lot of people think every song you write is autobiographical. It's not. You know, sometimes a songwriter, you know, a singer is like an actor, you know, but like The Wanderer, you know, there was a little bit of that in me. But, you know, the one, if you really look at the lyric, it says, "I roam from town to town. I go through life without a care. I'm as happy as a clown with my 2 fists of iron, but I'm going nowhere. I'm the type of guy that likes to roam around." You know, it sounds like he's having a good time, but the guy is kind of lost, you know.
Well, you've done this new album, Girlfriends, which is a fantastic piece of work. What do you want to do next? Are you just going to carry on creating?
You know, when a door opens, I kind of make a decision. I look at it, kind of mull it over in my mind. If I want to walk through it, I walk through it. And I keep doing that. You know, I just, I don't know what the future holds, but I'm in the hands of the one who holds the future. That's the way that's the way I put it.
Dion, thanks ever so much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Andrew, you guys have a good day. God bless.
Just a reminder, Dion's album Girlfriends is available to download. You can get it on vinyl as well. Next up on Free Speech Nation, I'm going to be speaking to Ethan Haim, MD, who's a medic who exposed a scandal at Texas Children's Hospital and was pursued by the US Department of Justice for his trouble. So please, don't go anywhere.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, a changeable week ahead with some rain and showers, plenty of dry weather around too though. For today though, we've got a frontal system clearing its way southeastwards, allowing a ridge of high pressure to build, bringing a fairly settled evening. Notice the winds coming from a northwesterly direction though, meaning things are going to be feeling a little bit cooler. A change on the way into this evening though, as we see outbreaks of rain move their way into western and northwestern parts of the UK. But on the whole, overnight, plenty of dry weather around, a mix of cloud and clear spells. And under those clear spells, it will feel a little bit cooler, but most towns and cities remaining in the double digits. An unsettled picture as we head into Sunday, particularly across northern areas, as we'll continue to see those outbreaks of rain edge their way into eastern parts of Scotland. So fairly damp in the west, a few drier spells before that rain moves in the east. Quite a damp start too across Northern Ireland, northwestern parts of England, but once again in the far east, around Yorkshire for example, fairly dry with some bright sunshine to start. And similar across the south and southeast, a mix of cloud, but also some bright sunny spells to start the day on Monday. Generally though, it is going to be quite an unsettled picture. Outbreaks of rain spreading their way eastwards across the country, a little bit heavy at times across hills in Scotland. Generally though, later on across Wales and the south and southeast, a bit of cloud around, but some sunshine breaking through, particularly across southern parts of Wales and Devon and Cornwall. A bit cloudier in the southeast, but that's where we'll see the best of the temperatures, highs of around 21 Celsius. For Tuesday, another north-south split with some showers and some longer spells of rain feeding into the northwest and later on into northern parts of England and northern Wales. And across the south and southeast, that's where we'll have the driest of the weather again and the best of the temperatures. Turning windier from midweek, but plenty of dry weather around too. Bye for now.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Andrew Doyle. Houston surgeon Ethan Haim blew the whistle on a scandal at Texas Children's Hospital, sharing documents which allegedly showed that the hospital was still providing gender-affirming care to minors, even though Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton issued an opinion in 2022 stating gender-affirming care was a form of child abuse. Now, for his trouble, Ethan has been pursued by the Justice Department and he's facing federal charges. So Ethan Haim joins me now to tell us more. Good evening, Ethan. Are you there?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
No, really appreciate you coming on, because a lot of people over here won't have heard of your case. So perhaps if you can just give us the bare bones, what happened?
Yeah, so I was a surgeon. I was working at Texas Children's Hospital during my training. In March of 2022, they said they were going to shut down their transgender program, acknowledging that there was potential criminal liability. That was a few weeks after Ken Paxton, Texas Attorney General's opinion saying it was child abuse, which it is. So it makes sense that their statement, they would say they're shutting it down in order to avoid any scrutiny from the state. But I worked there, I was doing surgery there. The people who were doing the surgeries told me they were doing it. They not only continued the program, but prioritized it, expanded it behind closed doors in a really horrifying way. And that's such a betrayal of trust, because trust is the only currency that doctors use in order to take care of their patients. So I anonymously blew the whistle to Christopher Rufo. Within 24 hours of our story coming out, the Texas Senate reaffirmed the illegality of this conduct. So 24 hours after our story coming out, what we exposed was supposed to become illegal, right? Reaffirming it. A month later, on the day of my graduation, federal agents show up to my door, right, a few hours before, as a means to intimidate me. And then over the next 6 months, we see how corrupt the justice system has become, right? My attorneys wrote a letter to Congress saying that they didn't review the facts of the case or didn't know them in the first place before sending agents to my home. They had, even though they didn't know the basic facts, they did enough research to find out my wife had been hired by the federal government as a prosecutor and threatened her career. But most egregiously, they had said they were going to bring me to a federal jury trial, even if they were going to lose. The implication being this is not about justice, but retribution. So just 2.5 weeks ago, 4 heavily armed U.S. Marshals showed up to my door and gave me an indictment, 4 federal felonies. I'm facing up to 10 years in prison. And we're going to take this trial. So if anyone wants to help support, it's givesendgo.com/Texas_whistleblower.
I think a lot of people watching this will be very disturbed about this. I mean, obviously, whistleblowing has a place, particularly if the hospital or whoever it might be is telling the public one thing and doing something else that is so dangerous. But can I ask you, Ethan, we've had the Cass Review in this country, and it would seem that a lot of institutions that have a kind of activist mindset are determined to ignore the findings of this when it comes to gender-affirming care. How is it the case that the medical profession has become so captured ideologically?
So I believe they've been captured ideologically because when you have these activists who have embedded themselves in these organizations, they have taken them so far down this road that if there's any type of acknowledgement of what they've truly been doing, they have to look in the mirror and come to the reality that even though they were the ones who said they were saving these kids, they were actually the ones destroying them. So when something like the Cass Review comes out, they have to avoid it like the plague, because it is bringing them one step closer to facing the reality of their crimes. Because this was never based on the goal of medicine. It was never oriented towards healing patients. It's not bad medicine. It's not like a little bit off. It's oriented in the exact opposite direction. It's anti-medicine.
And it's particularly affecting children. I mean, I note that the WPATH standards of care, the most recent version, doesn't have the minimum age restrictions on surgery for minors. And we've discovered this week that there are allegations that Rachel Levine's office had put pressure onto WPATH. So does this ideology go all the way to the top?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why they have used so many federal resources to pursue this investigation. And I would say these are less so allegations as opposed to stone cold facts, because they have the emails of Richard Admiral Levine, right, sending emails saying that he is going, that he recommends they remove these age limitations so that children can get these interventions. And this is coming from someone who has children, who has publicly said the most important thing in his life is his children, but he's taking that away from these vulnerable kids. And I can't imagine anything worse than that, but they're trying to put me into prison for 10 years for exposing the hospital was lying.
So what do you make of critics who will say, well, children aren't being medicalised, people aren't performing surgery on minors, they're just pausing their puberty so that they have some time to reflect. What do you make of that?
I would say just listen to their own words. When they say pausing puberty, that's completely contradictory to their algorithms. By their own words, they're saying that a child should completely not go through the entirety of puberty, then go on to hormones and then surgery. Any off-ramp, any alternative is prevented by the threat of the child's own suicide. So this is not like a pause, because if it was a pause, they wouldn't allow for an alternative. But what they're saying is you're going to kill yourself if you go off this road. And then for the rest of their life, they're going to be existentially reliant on a doctor's prescription pad or a surgeon's recommendation. That is how it is. There's no two ways about it. And this is by their own protocols.
And given that there is now evidence that there is no increase in suicidal ideation after treatment, that kids are not killing themselves if they don't get this treatment, that was just a lie. Isn't that just a form of emotional blackmail at this point?
I mean, there was no evidence in the first place. The evidence is that when they started down this road, their risk of suicide jumped up to unprecedented levels. I mean, what other population in the history of the world has had suicidal ideation to this percentage? And then when you control it against a controlled population, it's horrifying. I mean, you know, there's like the Mark Twain quote, you know, there's lies, damn lies, and then statistics. You can convince anyone of statistical falsification. That's just how it is. But we have to use logic.
But haven't the revelations of the WPATH files, I mean, they didn't make as much of an impact as I would have liked, but I think they have made quite a significant impact insofar as we learned that leading members of WPATH were fully aware that many of these individuals cannot consent to the treatment that they were putting them on. Shouldn't that be the end of it? Shouldn't that be the end of WPATH by now? How is it still going?
Well, I would say with the argument of consent, we have to remember that there are two parties in the consent process, the individuals who consent and then the individuals who inform. If the doctor who is providing the information regarding that consent is fundamentally and egregiously misinformed about the nature of the problem they are intervening on, then that individual cannot provide consent. It's like I'm a surgeon, right? If I were to start doing appendectomies for people with depression and telling them that this works and it's going to make their lives better, right? You would never say that these people provide consent.
Yeah. Can I ask you, Ethan, I mean, you are very much under the sword of Damocles at the moment, and I think people watching this will wonder how you're holding all this together. But do you feel that given the justness of your position, that ultimately the right decision will prevail, that, you know, you're not going to end up in prison for doing the right thing? Because surely that's just an unimaginable consequence.
And I think that it's not unimaginable because, of course, especially when after this indictment, when I read their allegations, you know, I thought that it was going to be this huge amount of fear, but it was actually a degree of relief and vindication, but also coupled with fear. But it was initially vindication because I saw that everything I've been saying all along has been true. This is a political prosecution. It's completely bogus. But things are unpredictable in a federal trial, right? You never know what you're going to be able to get into the court. But I'll tell you one thing is that my first daughter is going to be born in a couple of months, and there's a possibility I might not be there for it. Might not be there during the first couple of months, during the first couple of years of her life. And that's scary. It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. But the one thing more terrifying is the thought of my daughter growing up and thinking that her father was never willing to fight for her future. That's one thing I could never live with myself with, you know, if that was the case. And, you know, you come to a conclusion that, you know, this is scary, but there are some things that we should be more fearful of. And that is not doing the right thing when it's a challenging thing to do, because one day our kids are going to grow up and they're going to look at us and see, what did we do during this challenging time? And that becomes real when you're in a situation like mine.
Well, Ethan, can you just remind us how people can find out more information about your situation?
Yeah, the most important thing is people can donate at givesendgo.com/Texas_whistleblower. We've pumped everything we've ever saved, over $200,000 into this case. We have, you know, nothing left, but we're going to fight this case. And we've raised almost $1 million in $5 to $100 donations. You know, to learn more about this case, I mean, I'm on Twitter. You can just type my name in. There's only one of me, I think, in the country. It's kind of an odd name, so it's pretty easy to find me. But
fantastic.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, well, Ethan Haim, I really appreciate you coming on to discuss this with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And next on Free Speech Nation, Pride Month becomes a welcome haven for straight people. A baby goes viral by talking in a Scouse accent, and a woman takes revenge on her cheating boyfriend. It's almost time for social sensations. Don't go anywhere.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tormini.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Giovanni is axed following growing allegations of threatening and abusive behaviour.
We won't see his little toes dancing around the dance floor again, which is a shame.
Was it the BBC saying, you know, we've had some bad publicity about this star, do we need to maybe let him go? Or was it Giovanni himself saying that, you know, he's had to, with all the bad publicity and what's the allegations against him, he's walked away? We don't exactly know. But what we do know is that Amanda Abingdon, who he was coupled with last year on the last series of Strictly, left claiming that she had nasty behaviour from him in rehearsals when they were training for their routines. And she's also been diagnosed with PTSD, which she is blaming or claiming happened because of the training that she was put under Giovanni. It's very sad because I've met Giovanni on quite a few occasions, and he comes across as a very nice gentleman, actually, and the fans absolutely love him. And even though the allegations are out there against him, everybody I speak to in terms of the fans are on his side.
I mean, from the fans' point of view, they don't see what goes on behind the scenes. All they see is an incredibly gifted dancer who we're seeing footage of now.
It might come out later, but there's all sorts of things coming out because after Amanda came out and claimed all this behaviour against him, a male celebrity last week also came out and voiced their opinion. Yeah, a lot of fans will be gutted, but as you say, we don't know the full story yet as what's gone on.
And it's incredible pressure that no one's allowed to be, a duffer right from the start now.
I mean, it's one thing learning lines if you're an actor, but it's a different kettle of fish altogether if you're learning moves that you've never done before. So you've got...
The People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes. Thank you for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
With me, Andrew Doyle. So it's time for Social Sensations. That's the part of the show where we look at what's been going viral this week on the dreaded social media. First up, we've got this video from Pride in New York. Let's have a look.
What makes you guys so excited about Pride Month?
Well, obviously, queerness, gayness, and being fabulous in general, and celebrating everybody's diversity is very important in New York City. Very important to a lot of people who live here, and this month means a big f***ing deal to us.
And when did you realize that you were gay or queer?
I'm straight.
So there we have it. I mean, I have said, I think most people going to these Pride events are just straight people. That's all it is. It's a big celebration of straightness.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a takeover of straight.
I know.
Generally middle-class people as well.
Yeah, posh straight people. But the thing is, I'm not saying that, straight people shouldn't be allowed to go to Pride. That's not what I'm saying. But the fact that they predominate and the fact that I don't know any gay people who go to Pride anymore suggests to me that maybe it's had its day, right?
Yeah, I think it... Well, I'm a straight white man in my 40s.
Go for it,
I am the worst of the worst. I can't be sat on national TV saying ban Pride.
All right, well, I will. Get rid of it.
Get in, be an ally. You'd look great in those rainbows.
Yeah. What do you make of it, Cressida? I don't want to ban Pride, by the way. I just think it's had its day, and I think gay people are starting to recognise it's actually working against their interests these days.
Yeah, it's all a bit tired now, isn't it? That's what it seems to me.
And a bit too fetishy, all of that stuff. You know, it's so weird to me. Like, so there was one in Texas, the Pride event in Texas a couple of weeks ago, where they had open fetishistic displays. They said it was a family-friendly event, and the whole thing was sponsored by Lockheed Martin, right? The biggest constructor of armaments in the world. So they blow people up, but they do it in an inclusive way. Anyway, next up, this video has been viewed by millions. It shows a baby conversing with her mother in a strong Scouse accent, even though it doesn't know any words.
No. I'm not sure. I'm not going to work. But why? I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I want to play. Yeah, but you need to go to sleep because you're only a baby. I'm not going to sure. I'm going to come back. No, but you're a baby, so you're meant to listen to what I'm saying. I'm not going to slowly. No, but you're meant to be going to sleep because you're the baby. I'm not going to dad. Alright. I'm sleep.
Yeah, she's got that nail, doesn't she? I mean, it's like, because the thing about the Scouse speech, it's not really about what they say, it's how they say it, right?
Well, it's a bit of both, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
It's proper boss, that is. I think that was adorable. Very funny.
Can you do the accent?
Well, I think I can. I don't know if the baby would approve.
It is adorable, isn't it? What do you make of that?
That looks a little bit like you and I, you talking to me about anything intellectual in the news. So you're trying to explain high art to me.
Yeah, and then you come back with a few buzzwords.
Yeah, just say, yeah.
Every now and then. Yeah, good for you. OK, look, we're going to have a look at this one now. This is, it's not just the European Championships which are taking place at the moment. There's also the Copa America taking place in the United States. One girl making sure her ex-boyfriend will miss out on going to some of the matches. Let's have a look.
Hola a todos. Bueno, acá la boluda que les habla, ahora cornuda, su novio la acaba de cagar con su mejor amiga. Y miren lo que tengo acá porque esto. El boludo se dejó las entradas para la Copa América, para los próximos 2 partidos. Y como la que les habla le iba a regalar los pasajes, lo voy a sortear todo.
So that is a woman scorned. And I mean, the thing is, like, withholding the football tickets as revenge. Oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, she's going to sell his football tickets.
I thought it was GCSE Spanish and I was going to fail. Okay, so she's got hold of the football. Well, this is why emails are wonderful. If you have everything electronically, you can't lose.
Yeah, I should say I don't endorse theft because what she's doing is actually technically theft. But then he shouldn't have cheated, to be fair. But then
I've got to admit a conflict of interest here. That is actually my girlfriend.
Oh well. Yeah.
And
well, she's punching below her weight. No offence. Anyway, look, this is the part of the show where we're going to talk through your unfiltered dilemmas. And, of course, every week you do email in with all of your problems under the delusion that I'll be able to solve them. But anyway, let's have a look. Our first dilemma comes in from Miriam. Thanks, Miriam. Miriam says, I ran a sweepstake at work for the European Football Championships in good faith. £2 to enter. One of my colleagues drew Scotland out, delayed payment, and now they have gone out. He won't pay at all. How tight can you get? Well, it's in keeping with the theme, isn't it?
Hey!
What do you think?
You took all the jokes away from me. No, that's outrageous. You've got to pay up front anyway.
Got to, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. This is the sort of thing that should be going to federal court.
Yeah.
Not the doctor talking about mutilation of children.
Yeah, what a dark callback. What do you think, Cressida?
Shame him. Which, you know,
shame him.
You've started with the TV. Great work. Keep it up.
So she should have named him. Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Name and address next time. Let's get another one now. This is a dilemma from Neville. I like that name, Neville.
Yeah, dying out.
Yeah, it's a good name. My flatmate keeps emptying our kitchen bin, but does not take it to the rubbish chute in our building, instead leaving it next to the bin. This means it's always left to me to sort out. Should I start ignoring the bin, even if it means the kitchen begins to smell? You see, this is the problem. That's kind of cutting your nose off to spite your face, isn't it? Because, of course, you're going to have to suffer with the stench of the bin, but you are proving a point to him. Tricky. What do you think?
Yeah, I can't understand that. That's like the height. I mean, you've got the bag out, tied it, I assume, put it to one side. Now, I'd want to know if they put the new bag in. And how many times it happened? Because this could have just been put the new bag in, got a phone call, your girlfriend's ripping up your Copa America tickets, mate, and he's got to dash off.
It's terrible. I mean, this is not how flatmates are meant to behave, is it?
Well, this is why I wouldn't have flatmates.
Well, this is why you live on a boat by yourself.
Well, I spent 6 years on a boat to avoid this situation, exactly.
Yeah.
If I had the choice between being by myself or that, I'll take the boat.
Have you ever had terrible flatmates?
Yes,
have you?
Of course, yeah. It's just given me PTSD just listening to that.
Well, how did you deal with it? Because that kind of thing, I think you need to find a way to deal. I think the best way is to sit down, conflict resolution, have a conversation. Don't just do these...
No, I'll sort it out. I'll just do the bin myself. I'll just be passive-aggressive.
That's what you would do. Exactly. I think that's what I would do.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah. Just bury it down. 40 good years of never talking about anything.
Yeah.
And until there's the inevitable heart attack or breakdown.
Yeah. You're not there yet, Paul.
I'm on my way.
You are on your way.
I'm on my way.
Well, look, thank you so much for joining us. For Free Speech Nation, this was the week when Joe Biden's debate performance threw the presidential race into chaos. An asexual activist led the Pride March, and a QR code was added to a statue of Virginia Woolf. Thank you so much to my panel, Cressida Wetton and Paul Cox, to all of my brilliant guests this evening. And if you want to join us live in the studio and be part of this wonderful, beautiful studio audience, dead easy. Just go to www.sroaudiences.com. You can apply there. Stay tuned because Mark Dolan is on after the break. Don't forget that Headliners is on every night at 11 o'clock. That's the late night paper preview show where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. Thanks ever so much for watching Free Speech Nation with me, Andrew Doyle. I'll see you next week.
Warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, a changeable week ahead with some rain and showers, plenty of dry weather around too though. For today though, we've got a frontal system clearing its way southeastwards, allowing a ridge of high pressure to build, bringing a fairly settled evening. Notice the winds coming from a northwesterly direction though, meaning things are going to be feeling a little bit cooler. A change on the way into this evening though, as we see outbreaks of rain move their way into western and northwestern parts of the UK. But on the whole, overnight, plenty of dry weather around, a mix of cloud and clear spells. And under those clear spells, it will feel a little bit cooler, but most towns and cities remaining in the double digits. An unsettled picture as we head into Sunday, particularly across northern areas, as we'll continue to see those outbreaks of rain edge their way into eastern parts of Scotland. So fairly damp in the west, a few drier spells before that rain moves in the east. Quite a damp start too across Northern Ireland, northwestern parts of England, but once again in the far east, around Yorkshire for example, fairly dry with some bright sunshine to start. And similar across the south and southeast, a mix of cloud, but also some bright sunny spells to start the day on Monday. Generally though, it is going to be quite an unsettled picture. Outbreaks of rain spreading their way eastwards across the country, a little bit heavy at times across hills in Scotland. Generally though, later on across Wales and the south and southeast, a bit of cloud around, but some sunshine breaking through, particularly across southern parts of Wales and Devon and Cornwall. A bit cloudier in the southeast, but that's where we'll see the best of the temperatures, highs of around 21 Celsius. For Tuesday, another north-south split with some showers and some longer spells of rain feeding into the northwest and later on into northern parts of England and northern Wales. And across the south and southeast, that's where we'll have the driest of the weather again and the best of the temperatures. Turning windier from midweek, but plenty of dry weather around too. Bye for now.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£30,000 in tax-free cash really could be yours. It's our biggest cash prize of the year so far, and you could be getting that winning call from us to tell you that you're our next Great British Giveaway winner.
You're joking. Really? Seriously? It's not a line. What is it?
Oh, flipping heck. Oh, dear.
Oh, my God. This is amazing.
I'm in shock. Like I said, I've never won anything like this. That is absolutely fantastic.
We're to the moon. Thank you.
For a chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This election night, we're putting on a party.
And you are invited.
We'll be here with you.
Following all the twists and turns.
As well as all the live reaction from our election night watch party.
With our GB News lineup.
And as morning breaks, we'll be here with breakfast from 6 a.m.
As it becomes clear who the winners and the losers really are.
Vote 2024.
Thursday, the 4th of July.
Only on GB News.
Britain's election channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do. His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, and unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frothy in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
Yeah, for dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party. I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes,
she could have saved Storm.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Congratulations, England. It's coming home. It's 9 o'clock on television, on radio and online in the United Kingdom and across the world. This is Mark Dolan Tonight. In my big opinion, whoever wins on July the 4th must tackle the woke tyranny which is destroying Britain, and they must tackle it from day one. This isn't about party politics. This is fighting for the values of our country. In the big story, Rishi Sunak says a Labour government would cause irreversible damage within just 100 days of coming to power and will bankrupt every generation. Not so, says a top Labour insider who joins me shortly. And in my Take at 10, Doctor Who actor David Tennant tells Government Minister Kemi Badenoch to shut up because she wants girls to have their own toilets. And he wishes she didn't exist. I'll be dealing with this rude, sexist man in no uncertain terms at 10 o'clock. These are my first public comments on this scandal. I'll be putting this Doctor Who star on the naughty step in the TARDIS, and I might even send in the Daleks. I will be dealing with that dreadful man, David Tennant, at 10 o'clock. You won't want to miss it. That's an hour from now. But the biggest priority for our next Prime Minister on Friday is to tackle wokery. Labour, Tory, Lib Dem, Green, I don't care who wins. Woke has got to lose. That's my big opinion in 2 minutes after Sam Francis and the headlines. Mark, thank you very much and good evening to you. It's just after 9 o'clock and the top story tonight. In a blow to Reform UK's campaign, a candidate has defected to the Conservatives, saying he's become increasingly disillusioned with the behaviour and the conduct of the party. Liam Booth-Isherwood says he's suspending his campaign and will instead support Conservative Maggie Throot to stop Labour. The party's already withdrawn support for 3 candidates who were accused of making offensive comments, and one activist has been recorded making a racial slur about the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Well, at an event in Birmingham earlier, the party leader, Nigel Farage, claimed the campaigner was planted by Channel 4 News as part of what he calls a smear campaign, a claim, though, the broadcaster has denied.
This guy is a setup. He was acting from the minute he walked into that office. He came up with a stream of invective not seen since Alf Garnett was on the television in the early 1970s. And some of it was just, turning mosques into Wetherspoons. It wasn't even serious. It was nonsense. So I really feel that Channel 4 or the production company need to be called before an inquiry. Let's find out the truth about what happened.
The Prime Minister insists an election victory for the Conservatives is still possible, despite polls predicting a heavy defeat. Rishi Sunak warned today that Labour's tax plans would, he says, bankrupt people in every generation, and also criticised their plan to make private schools pay VAT, saying that taxing education is wrong. Labour, though, says its first steps in power would be restoring economic stability and cutting NHS waiting lists. And the party continues to lead the Tories in the polls by around 20 points ahead of Thursday's election. Election news in France too, and voters have given the far-right National Rally a strong lead in the first round of parliamentary elections there. Exit polls tonight showing Marine Le Pen's party won, with President Macron's centrist group trailing in third place with up to 23%. That's after his decision to call a snap vote earlier this month. Turnout was also unusually high. Compared with previous elections, it was the largest in 40 years. Experts, though, say projections after the first round can be highly inaccurate. And now there's a week of political bargaining lying ahead before the final results. In the US, the White House is pushing back on reports that President Biden plans to discuss the future of his campaign with his family at Camp David today. That's after a report by NBC News that quoted several unnamed sources alleging that some senior party members are pushing for the president to stand aside. That's following his performance in a televised debate against Donald Trump. But officials say the trip was planned before the debate, and they've denied there was any serious discussion about Joe Biden standing down. In other news, police in Tenerife have today called off their search for the missing teenager Jay Slater. The tourist from Lancashire was last seen in a mountainous area of the island, and according to reports, that search operation has now finished. Although the case, they say, remains open. It comes just 2 days after a big push by search teams and expert volunteers to help find the 19-year-old. Here, a woman has been charged with misconduct in public office after a video allegedly showed a prison officer having sex with an inmate. 30-year-old Linda de Souza Abreu of Fulham was arrested by the Metropolitan Police on the 28th of June. That's after a video was filmed inside Wandsworth Prison in London and was posted on social media. She's set to appear in custody at Uxbridge Magistrates Court on Monday. And if you haven't heard already, England are through to the quarter-finals of Euro 2024, but only after an incredibly late comeback against Slovakia to win 2-1 tonight. Well, as soon as the final whistle went, the fan zone in Wembley in London erupted with cheers. Jude Bellingham equalised in the 95th minute. Then captain Harry Kane headed home a decisive goal early in extra time in just the first 50 seconds. England are now set to play Switzerland in the quarter-finals in Dusseldorf on Saturday. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sam Francis, back with you with your next update at 10 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening, United Kingdom and the world. Welcome to Mark Dolan Tonight. In the big story, Rishi Sunak says the Labour government would cause irreversible damage within just 100 days of coming to power and will bankrupt every generation. Not so, says a top Labour insider who's furious about the Prime Minister's comments and joins me shortly. Plus, with birth rates falling dramatically, should the government pay people to have babies? And if they collapse on Thursday, could the Conservative brand disappear altogether? I'll be asking their former chairman live in the studio, Sir Brandon Lewis. And I'm looking forward to this in my take at 10. Doctor Who actor David Tennant tells Government Minister Kemi Badenoch to shut up